Welcome. We've been expecting you for some time now. Back to the CRL B stream. Oh my goodness.
My goodness.
All right.
I literally waited. I thought maybe you disconnected in Discord. I got scared there for a second.
All right. All part of the plan. Thanks for your faith, by the way, Hunted. You know, appreciate it. You know, we haven't been organizing this for the past 30 seconds or anything. Anyways, I'm Squid, joined by Hunted, and personally, I feel betrayed, but I'm still excited for this next match. I don't know how you feel, Hunted. Apparently, it doesn't matter how other people feel. So.
Well, I'm with you. I think that this match should be a pretty fun one. It's Nebraska versus Oregon. Nebraska, one of the quote-unquote top four, if you will, in the West. They're 10-4 coming into this one. Oregon, not the greatest record to date, 4-8, and I think they're kind of in that zone where they're a bit out of the running for qualifying, but certainly could knock Nebraska down a peg. And interesting results for Nebraska recently, beating some of the top teams, dropping to teams you don't expect them to. So really, I think that this game, it could very well go in favor of Oregon, but I mean, Nebraska's such a good team, Squid.
Yeah, they are, and I mean, remember, I believe it was actually just the other day on the CRL A stream that I believe it was Team Bates or maybe Fire, who I can't remember. They did the both player interviews, but they said that Nebraska was actually one of the tougher teams. I want to say that was Chef Bates. Now, thinking back on that one, he said, quote, Raceladon is nuts, if I'm recalling that correctly. So, okay, so I'm hearing from the broadcaster, Raceladon is a god. That's what Chef Bates. Okay, so there you have it.
And he is. I mean, you can't really deny it. I mean, Raceladon, not only a star player for Nebraska, also one of the top bubble players in North America, made a run for the rival series this season. Couldn't quite reach it, but regardless, again, one of the best players we have in North America, and we'll get to see him in action alongside his teammates in Parkour Penguin and Chanos. That's Oregon, Acro, Duskapy, and Leland in order.
Again, Nebraska just looking to pad their record here. This is their last match of the regular season, so they'd like to end it off on a high note. Try and prepare for the playoffs, which I believe they haven't clinched a spot, I don't think, but they're likely to. If they can win this game, especially, that'll help. They don't get that shut off right there, but to start out in the offense, at least briefly.
And again, I talked about how Nebraska has beaten some high-quality teams, but like Arizona, for instance, but they've lost to teams as well that you don't expect. Most notably, Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, took down Nebraska only a couple of days ago. Went to all 5 games, granted, but not a game you expect Nebraska to lose. But either way, I would not expect Nebraska to come out slowly in this game. They're going to kind of want to dominate this Oregon team.
Definitely will. Some pretty slow play here, though, in the beginning. The first minute's come and gone without much eventful happenings. Well, happening. I'm getting word that Nebraska has clinched a playoff spot, so at the very least, there is that. This would just be an extra bit of icing on the cake for them. Still might be the opportunity to play for a bit of seeding, though, so at least there's that on the line.
And when you're competing with the best teams in the West, most notably North Texas, Arizona, LSU, and you can even throw UTA in there if you wanted to. Having some great seasons would be nice to pick up this final game of the season, at least carry some momentum, right, going into the playoffs.
Definitely. Again, the first 2 minutes now come and gone, and we've only seen 3 shots put up in total. An opportunity there for Raceladon. Doesn't put that one on target, though. And it looks like Oregon will be able to push downfield here. Off the back wall, Leland gonna touch it off the back again, but it will be touched away. And Hunted, I have to say, you know, I was expecting a bit more high-flying action, especially out of the Nebraska players, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Could be first game jitters. Maybe, again, you know, we talk about the feeling out process. You only play these teams once in the season, right? It's not like you've been playing against Oregon all season and you know how they play. You've only got 5 games to make your mark against them, so not surprised to see Nebraska taking it a bit slowly. I would bet, I guess, that they will start to turn up the pace here pretty soon.
And here's finally a good shot there. Leland does get in front of it. The parkour penguin denied there. Dano's now crossing in front, nothing happening there, and now 3 minutes have come and gone without a single mark being put on the board for either team. 3 shots favoring Nebraska. Oh, a nice clear there. Acro's going to try and chase this one down with an option in the center. But Oregon gets turned away. Leland going to stop it at the midfield line. Play slows down once more. Acro, nice read off the back wall, getting into the opposite corner.
That's a giveaway out in front. Chanos was looking for the shot. Parkward Penguins up for it. Does get a touch, but it's well high. Roseladon will score. There's the first goal. Nebraska finally get it going on the offensive side of the ball, but looking at the shot counter, 5 now in favor of Nebraska, only the 1 for Oregon. And while it's been a slow pace, it's certainly been a Nebraska game.
It has felt like it, Oregon, with a couple opportunities here or there, but nothing significant so far. This one coming right off the faceoff. We'll add another shot, but not a goal. Acro pass up to Leland. I like the idea. It does get deflected before it can get tossed towards the net, however. Only 70 seconds now to respond. Good mistouch there by Roseladon. Parkour Penguin will reach it first. Chanos for the follow-up. Doinks it up high. Can he get the double? No. Roseladon's there for backup and can't make it happen either. Oregon have a free push down to the offensive side.
Solid block there from Chanos. That's an opportunity on the offense that Nebraska typically will score. I'm surprised that Roseladon didn't get the angle he wanted on that ball, but either way, time management now in favor of Nebraska. That's unfortunate. It's 2-0.
Yeah, I'm not certain if there's much more to say about this one. Just, I really don't think Acro thought that was going the way that it did. And I don't think I was thinking that either, until it happens.
That's a tough read, certainly, and you know that it's Nebraska you're playing against. There's likely somebody there to follow up the touch, so you've got to get something done on that play, and unfortunately it finds its way in. But 30 seconds to go. Nebraska, they've maintained possession. They've really controlled the pace of the game, have not given up much space nor time to Oregon, and they're not starting now.
Absolutely not. But Oregon have shown, again, I'm gonna advocate for them just a little bit. You know, we've seen a couple of good philosophical plays, and here's one. They'll get one across there. Does Skippy picking one up at the end of the game. And this is now the point where you have to ask yourself how heartbreaking it is to them that they accidentally put up a mark against themselves earlier on.
Chanos looked kind of lost on that play. I don't really know what he was thinking. Maybe thought that Parkour Penguin had the play out of the corner. Either way, unless this turns into a kickoff goal for Oregon, doesn't look like it will. Well, they're keeping it up, Squid, but that's just going to fall. Yeah, it's a 2-1 game for Nebraska. And actually kind of a little bit of a sleepy game.
Yeah, it did seem like it. I mean, you mentioned early on, though, that, you know, it's going to take a little bit of just, we don't want to necessarily just dive in on this, so we're going to play it slow, make sure that we know what we're up against, and then try to move in based on what we find out. And I think they effectively did that, outshooting their opponents 7-2. It was a pretty convincing game for Nebraska. It never really felt out of their control either, be it in the midfield on the opposing half or even on defense. Oregon, again, I'm going to say it, they showed signs of life. Sure, there's definitely something to be said for them, but I really just don't feel like it was ever in their control.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say other than that. While it was a slow-paced game, it did feel like it was, like I said, a Nebraska game. This was just the way they wanted to play this game. They played exactly how they wanted, and they ended up taking the victory. It was close at the end, but really, a 2-1 victory to start things off. I'm interested to see how Oregon responds, however, because it certainly seems like if they can get the speed going a little bit, maybe they could take Nebraska by surprise and win a couple of those challenges through mid, get a couple of transitional plays potentially happening, and could knock a couple home before Nebraska knows what hit them, and they could steal a game.
could very well happen, and I have to say, it could just be a little bit of end-of-league play fatigue for Nebraska as well. Of course, this being their last game. They've kind of gotten used to this, so they're just going through the motions, potentially. There might be somewhere where Oregon could try to take advantage, but Game 2 now underway. Nebraska looking to move this one on the match point. Continue this hopes for a sweep with a game win here, but Oregon have other ideas.
We're going to start on the offensive side. We'll see what they can do with the ball. Skippy towards the front. Chanos, solid save. Quite the contrast how game number 1 started. Nebraska maintained most of the possession. Oregon found little offensive zone time, and they start with some good extended time now. Leland will give the ball away, however, and that's a great play from Parkour Penguin. 2 wonderful touches. Celadon tries to follow. That's high. Chanos will score. That whole play is set up by 2 wonderful touches by Parkour Penguin.
And this really highlights the individual skill of all of the Nebraska players as well. Celadon putting that in a spot basically impossible for the defender to get at from that position. Very well done on all 3 fronts. I mean, Nebraska coming out swinging this time around. They know what they're getting themselves into. They don't have to wait around. They're getting right to business.
Is Parkour Penguin going to do it again? Down to Chanos almost. Got around 2 defenders again on his own. It's just 50-50 wins. Small touches that play the ball in your favor and out of the favor of your opponents. And Parkour Penguin has absolutely shown his mastery of it here early. Now out of the corner, Acro tries to play this one. Celadon getting bumped. Chanos. Now Skippy. He's going to drop harmlessly in the blue corner. Parkour Penguin up to Chanos. Down through mid. Looking for a touch underneath Acro. Not going to be able to find it. Forces Celadon back. Slight touch out in front. Skippy off the post. Leland's there. He'll score. Tie game 1-1.
And a well-executed play here by Oregon. Great force here by Acro, reading that touch from Celadon. And then Skippy, as if the pass wasn't enough by itself, takes out the last man back. Don't think it would have made much of a difference, but still a heads-up play. And Oregon striking back, showing that they have the potential to get that comeback if necessary. They're still going to have to put up 1 more goal if they want to win this game, be it in regulation or OT.
2 good saves from Celadon. Leland trying to keep the ball in. Celadon will find it clear as well. Gets Demlet for his trouble, however. Acro trying to carry this out of his corner. Gets challenged by Chanos. Skippy has to go up. Cleared away from the front. It's now Acro to touch it back down. Gonna get by Chanos. Let's get a good 50 towards Skippy. It's out in front. Leland, slow roller. That's not the touch he wanted, as it gives Celadon at least a little bit of time of possession now. Ball back and forth through mid. This again feels like a slow-paced, methodical game from both teams. Very similar to game 1.
Indeed, but I really want to emphasize, you said it really feels like that from both teams, and I feel that indeed does cut both ways. We've seen Oregon trying to make plays where it matters, but Chanos gonna do it alone off the ceiling with this incredible push.
Yeah, it's a good shot, but I'm surprised nobody gets to this ball. It's not particularly sneaky. Just beats the defenders. It's a good shot from Chanos, don't get me wrong. Slips through the 3-man defense of Oregon, and it's 2-1 now for Nebraska. Chanos has both goals in the game. This could be an opportunity. Celadon cuts across, makes the play. Skippy's still there. Shot towards the net, crossbar down. Acro can't get there. Nearly the tying goal, but kept in deftly by Leland. Trying to play this out in front. Skippy, 1 more, they'll score. We're back tied at 2, and with just about 2 minutes to go.
Got a good response here from Oregon. Leland keep that one in the zone. Not the touch that Chanos wanted there, I'm certain, and Celadon with no backup. No hopes of making that play. But I have to wonder, when are we going to see more out of that from Oregon? I'm actually surprised when I just now opened up the scoreboard and found out that Oregon now have 10 shots on target. It does not feel like it, to be honest. The Nebraska defense has apparently been a lot more sound than I initially wanted to give them credit for. It just has not felt like a very threatening game thus far for the Oregon players.
They're certainly vastly out shooting Nebraska. Nebraska getting their 4th shot on goal just there. Score is the most important bit, and we are tied 2-2, minute 30. Nebraska finding some extended offensive zone time now as we're selling on down towards Chanos. It's going to go wide. Closing in on that minute remaining here in game number 2. It's a 1-0 series lead for Nebraska as this is down to Acro. Chanos makes an acrobatic save, and he gets his second on Duskippy. Chanos creates the rebound and takes it away. We're still tied at 2 with a minute to go.
And I feel like now I understand where the defense was coming from that I failed to give credit to earlier on. An incredible couple of saves, and now looking for the double tap. It doesn't have the boost to follow it up. Parkour Penguin coming from the mid now. But can't follow that one up. Nebraska want to finish this one in regulation, it looks like. Pushing here onto the offense once more. It is Skippy will touch it off to the side.
Now Chanos looking for a Celadon, actually. Celadon opting to rotate back. Not going to play that out of the corner. 25 seconds to go. Acro getting challenged. Potentially one final push now from Nebraska. Kept in by Parkour Penguin towards the net. It's open. It's in. 3-2 Nebraska. 16 to go.
And I'm not going to lie. I saw Chandler and I saw the colors. I thought he was a defender coming in here. But he shows restraint in trying to push that one to the other side. Nicely found was that lane by Parkour Penguin over there on the right side of the net. 16 seconds to go. Nebraska want this 3-0 sweep if they can help it.
Only 10 seconds left. The ball in the orange zone. Good play over towards Leland. He hits it hard off that wall. Bounces down in front for Celadon. Will clear it back. No time left on the clock now. Oregon's got to keep this in the air. Now Skippy's up to play it. Gets it by the defender. Leland hustling down. Makes the touch, gets it on the wall. It's still up. Out in front, Chanos makes the clear. Now Leland, last man back. Parkour Penguin goes over him. Acro on the respawn will keep things rolling. Skippy out of the corner. Celadon now into the pitch. It goes. Nebraska take game 2 and a 2-0 series lead.
And some good tenacity from Oregon at the end of the game, though, keeping that ball up for so long at 0 seconds. And I have to say, just on kind of an unrelated note, I have to appreciate how long now we see the 0 seconds stay up. I think Full is just truly phenomenal. But for Oregon, I have to say, they came out a lot stronger this game than I really would have expected, especially coming out of game number 1, only getting the losing goal against there in the final couple of seconds of the game. Impressive stuff overall. They were playing a very reactive game, and it worked out for them.
I just don't think that they generated the amount of dangerous plays right out in front of the goal. Not a whole. Granted, there were a lot of really good saves from Nebraska, so maybe I'm a little off base with this because, again, we did see Chanos had 2 wonderful saves to keep the game tied at one point, and there were a couple of others on the goal line. But it felt like when Nebraska got those opportunities, they were able to find ways to put it in the net. Chanos had the ceiling shot that looked like it should have been saved, but it found its way through all 3 defenders. There was the one with the demo on the backside that opened up the goal. Nebraska's taking advantage of the opportunities where it felt like Oregon, they had the shots, they had the opportunities, but they didn't capitalize on them as well as Nebraska did, and that was the big difference maker. But, Squid, if they do play the same way they did in Game 3, and they capitalize more on those, that's certainly a game that Oregon can win.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I mean to really illustrate that point. I mean, we all know, how important passing plays can be because just about anybody can, just hit the ball towards the opposing net. But unless you actually, put some force or positioning or thought into doing it, then it's probably not going to work. So it doesn't necessarily matter how many shots you have. If you're not making them effective, then you're not going to get much work done. But for Nebraska, they have been rather efficient when it comes to making sure that their shots count. The team plays have really been showing through, and a couple of solo efforts as well. But if you see any plays that you particularly like, make sure to tweet at us with hashtag CRL19 so we can hear your thoughts. Game 3 coming up with Nebraska looking to secure this 3-0 sweep. We're just getting the server reset real quick, making sure all the players have the optimal gameplay experience, but we'll be underway shortly.
And, again, can't harp on it too much, but it did come down to the offensive striking, I guess. Really, I do think Nebraska made a lot of saves, and I don't think they can continue that forever. Eventually, something's going to find its way in. So for Oregon, they can't feel bad going into Game 3. They just need to feel like, okay, we have the right things in place. We just need to continue those things, and eventually something good's going to happen from it. We'll see what they do in game number 3. I just don't want to see them fall apart, right? I just don't want to see a complete blowout by Nebraska because Oregon can't get anything going.
Yeah, there's definitely life in the eyes there for Oregon, but we got game number 3 coming up right now. 5 fresh minutes located on the scoreboard. And Nebraska coming right out of the gate, actually. Chanos touches that one down directly off the faceoff for Seldon onto the back wall. Gets a second touch. Sets it right up for Parkour Penguin, who has no trouble. Well, I can't say no trouble, but he did manage to put it through.
This is a solid pass from Celadon. Gets that touch just enough to play it down to Parkour Penguin. Double touches it off the crossbar, and it's 1-0 for Nebraska. So an early lead for them, and all of a sudden Oregon have to play from behind. We'll see how they fare. Only 15 seconds in. Down 1-0 towards the net. Chanos clears it away. It's not the start I think Oregon would have wanted in Game 3. I mean, certainly you don't want to play from behind, but after giving up a close game to Nebraska, to feel like you've got to score again really, really early in Game 3, it's such a tough mentality to play out of.
Yeah, I mean, thinking on that, right? Because it's difficult to think that you have to score now because it's all on your shoulders. But to think that having that deficit means you have to score twice, actually, because you got to win the game too. So, you can just try to keep yourself to that we only have to score once mentality, but eventually you're gonna have to do it again. So it's rather unfortunate that they have to play from this situation.
3:50 left to go. Game 3. Leland out of his corner, gets demoed by Chanos. Parkour Penguin out in front for Celadon, who will turn to play defense. Opts to let his teammate rotate in and make the play. And Leland's there for the clear. Here's Leland stalking his prey in the corner. Celadon, hard clear. Now Duskippy. Slight touch into the corner. Can he beat Chanos on the play? He does. Solid touch from Duskippy. Going to lead to some offense for Oregon. Leland, the flick over top of one. Parkour Penguin in position to make the play. But that's a good setup from Oregon to break out into an offensive opportunity. Would love to see more of that.
Indeed, but at the same time, it kind of makes me think because we see a lot of situations where Nebraska are kind of stripping away at all of the assets that Oregon have at their disposal before the ball gets close to the goal line, with demos, cutoffs in the passing lanes, etc. So it makes it very difficult for Oregon to put together an effective offense when they're losing their options before they can even execute any of them.
There's Parkour Penguin to clear back. Chanos directs it on. Bounces out in front. Chanos, the good save there by Acro cutting across the goal mouth. Halftime comes and goes in Game 3, and we're still playing 1-0 for Nebraska. Leland looking for a touch out in front. Acro, the slow roller towards the net, bounces just wide. Celadon can't quite get to clear. A solid keep in from Leland. Rotation now from Acro. He's got Leland in the corner looking for the deflection. Still going to find its way out towards mid, but Celadon's there to clear it away. A lot of good ideas from Oregon. They just can't practice defense.
And that's kind of what I was talking about, right? Because they're trying to put together these passing plays. They had Leland in the corner trying to receive the pass from Acro, but before they could even get there, Nebraska had a player in the corner trying to cut it off, and they're just going to get a roller right here. Leland getting credit for the goal. And I guess they'll take that in what capacity they can have it. But what happened to the Nebraska defense here?
Look, if your team can't score, then use the enemy team to score for you. That's exactly what Leland did. Get that right into Parkour Penguin. Deflects that into his own net, and it's 1-1. I'm not quite sure where that third man went from Nebraska. It looked like they were committing to an offensive play as Celadon tried to force that by Leland. They got caught there after Parkour Penguin getting demoed, but either way, it's tied up at 1. Just about 90 seconds left to go here as Acro hard off the back wall. Chanos touches it off the ceiling. Leland now Gets a second one over top of the defender. Rosilladon last man back. It's going to bounce around the corner. Acro's there to keep it going. Looking for a play out in front, but Parkour Penguin using every inch of his car to make that touch, and Chanos will find the clear. For
Oregon, I don't really want to see them get stuck in a defensive position here where they might just... Rosilladon running a lot of interference. Their offense is really one of their stronger suits, I feel. Nebraska just knocking on this door for too long is definitely going to result in a punish at some point in time. As we approach overtime, honestly, I cannot help but feel that Oregon might actually be less suited for OT than Nebraska.
Well, here's Leland popping it up to Skippy. Trying to end things in regulation time. They have at least some offensive life now with just about 30 seconds to go. Leland pinches it around the front of the goal. There's Acro down to Skippy. He'll score! Oregon 2-1 now with 24 to go.
And now there's so much pressure off their backs as they realize, you know, they've got this game in the bag as long as they don't choke. Rosilladon missing that touch, though. Questionable, especially for a player of his caliber. You and I know Rosilladon to be a rather talented Rocket League player, and he might make up for it right here off the face-off, barely deflected by Leland, but Parkour Penguin's not done yet, trying to send it over to Chanos, unable to do so. But Nebraska's still alive here in the final 10.
They've got to play out of their own corner. Very similar situation to what Oregon faced in the last game. Time winding down, Parkour Penguin trying to get the deflection on goal. Chanos doesn't get the touch. Leland's there. Do they have what it takes to kill it? They do. Oregon steal a game from Nebraska. We head to game number 4, and this series not over yet.
But now the question is, can they follow up on this? Because Nebraska, again, such a strong and usually consistent team. Honestly, I'm surprised. After that game 1 and 2 showing, I was a little bit surprised that Oregon were able to take this game. But, you know, there was always that hinting suspicion, right? That Nebraska, they weren't really shutting down their opponents. There was no shutout. It wasn't a blowout by any means. So now, you know, it's not entirely unexpected, but to me, I mean, it felt like Nebraska was going to be taking this series at the very least. So now Oregon with that bit in it, a bit worrying almost.
Yeah, and again, I talked about how Oregon didn't look poor in game number 2, and if they continue to play the way they did, they could take a game off of Nebraska. I think it slowed down a little bit. Again, the game got even a little bit slower than the last 2 that we just saw, and I think that almost kind of worked in Oregon's favor because Nebraska weren't able to get these quick touches, back wall plays, and the nice double touches that they're known for. And I think that helped Oregon, even though they got kind of flustered towards the end of that. Once they got clear possession on offense, they utilized it to their fullest. A bit of an odd whiff from Rosilladon. You can't count on him missing those. But if you get that opportunity, you've got to score, and that's exactly what Oregon did to take the win.
And now game 4 on the horizon as Oregon look to really get back into this series. Taking a win here, and they are on the path to a reverse sweep here. But it is going to be a difficult journey. We'll have to see if they can follow up on their first game win of the series. My goodness.
Again, they did start from behind in that last game. They ended up battling back, taking the victory. Would love to get out to an early lead if possible. They've got to play defense here as Skippy's going to go along his corner wall. Gets a touch over top of Rosilladon, but he does get just enough of it to deflect it and falls on top of it. Solid play from Rosilladon to find the clear. Gets by 2 more. He has an opportunity. Chanos running interference. Skippy gets there in time. Beautiful play from him. The ball's still out in front. Chanos pushes it wide. Oregon, they stave off Nebraska early on. It's still 0-0.
But it might not be for long. A great defensive play there by Leland, though. And so much good individual effort for all of the Oregon players so far. Rosilladon getting denied twice. First on the 1v1 and then on the pass. Leland and Skippy both putting their names on the board for making some pretty heroic saves so far. And it's pretty clear to see Oregon looking like they have some momentum in the last game. Haven't been able to push on to offense, however, so I'm curious to see if that's going to change anytime soon. Bumped one on the backboard, but Leland's able to make the play.
Good reaction time from Leland as well, realizing Acro was in a bit of trouble. bails out his teammate now, and they get to try to play offense here for the moment. Leland tempted to keep it in, gets up to block that touch from Parkour Penguin, but it falls right down to Chanos, who goes just high with the shot. Now Duskippy back into the blue zone off the back wall. There's Chanos to clear. Right to Raceladon, who gets by the first defender. Pass to Parkour Penguin. Shot on goal. Good save by Acro. Rebound. Score. There's Raceladon. Just sneaks it home. 1-0 for Nebraska.
A good pass here to Parkour Penguin. Acro doing all he can to save that one. And I have to commend Raceladon. Not that much boost in the tank. Still able to get up and use his wheels to touch that one down under the crossbar to give his team the lead. Trying to close out this series here in game number 4 with just over 3 minutes to go. Definitely doable for Nebraska, but again, we have not really seen a blowout game yet.
No, certainly have not. This one doesn't look like it's shaping up to be one. However, Oregon has certainly felt some offensive woes. They've only got one shot as we approach halftime. Oh, it could change here. Great touch from Raceladon to take that away from Duskippy. The clear is not in quite yet. Acro trying to play it out of the corner. Chanos get by Duskippy and clear it all the way back down. It's just going to take one solid possession from the Oregon offense to really start generating these shots. But right now, the Nebraska defense has played a stalwart game so far. They are not letting anything through the armor.
They're playing straight from midfield as well, not even on their back line. They've just been keeping Oregon out at the origin before they can make any sort of passing plays or put together a solid individual possession. And there's a perfect example. Raceladon cutting off that potential pass. Now it's up to Chanos. Shot up high. Perfectly positioned to put the second goal on the board.
Yeah, and this whole play starts with Raceladon. You called it out as it was happening. A wonderful decision from him to challenge that ball as early as he did. Ends up falling right to Chanos, who picks his spot. Hits the shot, and it's 2-0 now with 2 minutes to go. And Oregon still only a shot on the board. It's getting down to crunch time now for them, however. They've got to find these 2 goals in the minute 50 they have. Will be 3 as the passing play is in. Chanos gets his second, it's 3-0.
It seems like Nebraska has had enough of this childish game from Oregon. They're just going to try and put it away. And it seems like they really just decided, consciously almost, that they're just going to, end it here and now. A good pass from Parkour Penguin back to Chanos, puts it down low, and an easy goal.
This game slipping out of reach for Oregon. Faster and faster with every second that ticks off the clock. Only 90 seconds remain here. They need to score most likely within the next 30 if they really want a good shot. Acro trying to steal that back boost. Wasn't in position to make the play. Now they've got to chase this one back to their own zone. Parkour Penguin's there. He's going to touch this into the corner. As many touches as you can get for Nebraska that keep the ball out of the hands of Oregon. It's exactly what you want right now. Don't need to score. Don't need to worry about playing offense. Just need to see that time tick away.
For Oregon, it can be pretty difficult to watch as well. And again, I'm going to bring up the record being 4-8 presently. And I don't think they're necessarily out of the playoff spots right now, guaranteed. But with this game lost, it's going to be a lot more of a difficult task to get back into the running. Final 30 seconds rapidly approaching, and things not looking so good for them here.
No, certainly not. They really need to try to force this play now. Trying to rotate all 3 guys up front. Only 20 seconds to go. Chanos keeps it in the zone. Raceladon almost scores the 4th, but Acro breaks it out. Could turn into a 2-on-1 if they're quick. Can't get by Parkour Penguin, and that's going to do it. Game, set, and match to Nebraska. They will take down Oregon in their final game of the season. Moving to 11-4. It was a 3-1 victory. We talked about how Oregon, they looked good, but they couldn't overcome the beast that was Nebraska. In the end, they fall. We talked about it. Raceladon, the god, right? That's what people are saying, and he showed his chops here in the series.
He did indeed, and with that series win, I believe actually Nebraska's present standings will move them into second place. But I will note that UNT and Cal Poly B, both sitting at 10-2, still have 3 matches to be played, so you can't necessarily just call it a confirmed second place. For Nebraska, they are sitting pretty high up there in the standings, though, and they have definitely clinched their playoff spot. So congratulations on a well-played regular season to the Nebraska players. Well done, lads. But we're going to be done with that series. Next up, I think we got an exciting one hunted. It's going to be LSU versus the LSU Purple roster, both of which are presently in the top 8. I'm looking at LSU Purple with an 8-5 record. LSU with only 1 series loss. This is their final game of the season. They're sitting at 13-1.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. We'll take a look at that when we come back from a very short break. While we do take a break, make sure to tweet at us using the hashtag CRL19, and we will put up your tweets here on the stream. Do that. We'll take a break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Giveaway out in front. Chanis was looking for the shot. Parkworth Penguins up for it. Does get a touch, but it's well high. Raselanon will score. There's the first goal.